Hi everyone, I'm Jyotir Ganesan. I'm working as a software development manager for MySQL database service in the SRE team, the Site Reliability Engineering team for MySQL Oracle. Right. So today, so as you all are aware that MySQL database service is part of Oracle Cloud infrastructure now. So we have rolled out the service in multiple regions, right? So we just thought of making it more useful and informative to you by showing you the steps on how to create your first DB system with our service on cloud, right? So without further delay, I'll just move on to my presentation. So whatever I present here is for information purpose, and any dates or timing that I mentioned may not be the strict one, and it may subject to change. So as you all know, Oracle MySQL database service is a fully managed service, which means we are going to take care of everything, right from provisioning, patching, upgrades, and backups of your MySQL server on our cloud, right? So the database service that is given to you is with optimal MySQL configuration, and these are available to you by default. So I'll show you about the configurations on the screens directly on the console. And this is based on the MySQL 8.0 Enterprise Edition, which is fully compatible with the on-premise installation that you get, right? So we don't have any separate, patch on top of the Enterprise Edition to make it cloud compatible. So this is whatever you get on-premise is what you're getting on cloud with all the upgrades and latest security fixes and bug fixes and everything. So the service is natively integrated with OCI, which means we focus on security at the most, right? So our service is based on OCI's Gen 2 cloud architecture, where security is the focus with enterprise expertise and so on. So since it's integrated with OCI, we have different ways of accessing the service, right? So you can access our service through REST APIs, access it directly via the console, the CLI way of accessing with our OCI client, right? And there are several SDKs that we support, like Python SDKs, Java SDKs, and so on. And there are some DevOps tools which we use internally for monitoring purposes. So our service is available across multiple regions, and we are quickly expanding to further more regions. And in India, our service is available in Mumbai. So that's just to show you the different ways of accessing our service. So this is the console screen. This is how your database system will appear once you have created it, right? So the metrics, endpoints, backups, and channels are the different resources that are exposed as part of your DB system, right? And this is the OCI command line way of accessing your service. And this is through the MySQL command line, like you do any access your server through with any other on-prem installation. Right? So the Oracle MySQL database service is 100% developed, managed, and supported by the MySQL team. So as you all know, MySQL engineering team has a strong base in India, and we have different components which are being developed by the engineering India team. And this service is also coming from one of its kind, right? From the same engineering team who does the server, right? And the service interfaces are engineered by the MySQL control plane team. The backups are engineered by the MySQL backup team who delivered the MySQL enterprise backup features with a lot of options and features inside that. The service HA team is basically the replication team has delivered our services HA, right? HA feature. And our middleware and clients team has worked on the tools that are used by our database service. We also have all our engineers staffed 24/7 to support you globally, right, and round the clock to mitigate any issue that you face with our cloud service. So, and on top of this, the MySQL support team, who are the greatest and expertise folks in solving any of the problems that you solve with MySQL on-prem installation, is also going to support MySQL database service at no additional cost, right? So they are going to provide you support absolutely free. So they are also fully competent MySQL database service operators rather than just supporting you on MySQL on-prem edition. So with respect to security and compliance, as I told you earlier, Oracle MySQL database service is built on OCI's Gen 2 cloud infrastructure, where security is the first focus, right? So any kind of security fix that comes in will be patched automatically to the service, and you don't have to worry about any manual intervention, right? So you're always ensured 100% security all the time. And we don't expose the public IP addresses, having the fact that most of the other platform providers have done that, and there has been database breaches, right? So there is a provision that you can create your public subnet, but we don't expose your public address by default, right? So this is to ensure additional security to your system. We are encrypted by default, so all our database volumes are encrypted at rest, right? And we also ensure that the password validation plugin is, coming in by default along with the service to ensure strong passwords when you create. So ideally, we are meeting all the compliance needs like PCI, HIPAA, and GDPR. All security is ensured. So what are we waiting for, right? So we can just do a test drive. So what you get out of it is when you try the free tier, right? So you get $300 credits in your account, and you can use and play around with the database, the DB system for 30 days, right? So let's just go over the steps that we have to do to configure a DB system and get it going in cloud. So that's the home screen, right? So you just go into oracle.com/mysql, right? So there on top right-hand side, you see this Oracle Cloud free tier. So you just have to click on this to get it going, right? So there you see start for free, right? So that's a 30-day trial you have, and you can do a free sign up and use the service for 30 days. So this is just to explain what all we have, right? So you can experiment it for 30 days, up to 5 TB of storage and up to 8 instances across all the available services. So once you click on that, you get into the account creation screen, right? So you just have to provide your basic account information. The only thing to note down here is the cloud account name, right? So this is the account name provided by OCI for you to sign in, right? Later on when you have completed your sign up. Right? So if you leave it empty, a default one will be assigned to you based on the company's or organization's environment, right? And then you can rename it with any specific name that suits your structure, right? So, and then you can choose a home region. So this is another most important thing. So just choose a geographic location that's closer to you. So as I mentioned, I mean, in India, we have the region, the service available in Mumbai region, right? So you just can choose a home region as Mumbai, right? So it's just the basic information out here. So on to the next screen. So here, once you fill in your account information, this is a summary of it, and then you just do your mobile and payment verification. So you won't be charged anything till you complete your free tier and you opt to upgrade, right, to a paid service. So you don't have to worry about providing your credit card information here. So once you agree to sign up the agreement, you are all set to start your free trial, right? So, so once your sign up is successful, you get a cloud account name from OCI on the registered email ID, right? And that's what you have to provide here to sign up. So you just provide your cloud account name here and then say next, and that's your sign-in screen. So this is for SSO internal purpose, but you can use the right-hand side of the screen to provide your login credentials, right? So it's the same username with which you signed up, and that's the password. So you just sign in. So this is the screen of OCI, right? And there you see MySQL on the left side in the menu. So now we are just going to see how we create a MySQL system, right, in this cloud architecture. So on the right-hand side, you can see your account details where you have $300 credits. It's displaying in Singapore dollar, but yeah, when you convert it, it's going to be $300 and your 30-day trial period, right? So we keep track of this so that you know how much time you have left in your free trial account. So you click on MySQL here to get started with your DB system, right? So on to the next screen. So creating DB systems is going to be our walkthrough session today. So you click on that under MySQL. If you click on DB systems, then you get to this screen, right? So DB system is actually the logical abstraction of your MySQL database resources that represents the set of computes, the block volumes required to store your data, right? The network endpoint and the MySQL DB installation, right? That we are going to manage for you. So this is the logical unit, and to get it started, you need to have a set of prerequisites met. So we'll just see what are those prerequisites and go step by step. So as you can see, we display it clearly that the steps required are to create the VCN or the subnet, right? And then the next step is to create the policies. So these two have to be done before you actually create the DB system. So to give you a rough overview on what a VCN is, the VCN is the virtual cloud network. It's typically the private network that you set up in Oracle data center, any data center, right? So it closely resembles the traditional network setup where you can configure your firewall rules, and it covers a single contiguous IPv4 CIDR block of your choice, whatever you choose there. Right? So that's the VCN. And the subnet is the subdivision that you define in a VCN, right? So the subnet can contain the virtual network interface cards, which we call as VNICs, which attach to the instances. So you can also designate a subnet to be private or public based on your requirement. Yeah. So next is creation of policies. So a policy is nothing but the set of rules that you can configure. It can be as fine-grained as to a particular user or a group of users, and it can be a set of permissions for a particular compartment or for the whole of tenancy, right? So you can configure your own set of fine-grained policies based on your organizational structure and the group of users that you have. So there are some policy statements outlined for you as examples, right? So you can utilize our policy builder to make it syntactically correct and much easier to read and understand. So these are the prerequisites, and compartment is like a bucket. In AWS, they say it is a bucket. So in compartment is where you're going to start creating all this resources for your DB system. Okay. Moving on. So this is the VCN and policies that I talked about, but we'll see how to create it. So that's the VCN screen. So you go into, on the menu, you just go inside networking, and there you see virtual cloud networks, right? So this is my root compartment, so I don't have anything here. So I have two options here. Either I create it manually, where I specify the CIDR blocks manually, or I use the VCN wizard. Yeah. So now I'll just show you how to use the wizard so that it's really quick and everything is automated and completed for you. So that's the VCN wizard. So you can just click on Start VCN wizard, and this is what it will show up. So it's going to include the configuration of your VCN, the public subnet, the private subnet, the internet gateway, the NAT gateway, and the service gateway. Right? NAT is the network address translation gateway, which is usually used to provide access to the internet without your public address. Right? And service gateway is to provide the access between Oracle resources and the private network that you have. So we just click on Start VCN Wizard, and then yeah, it's as simple as this, right? So you just provide a VCN name and choose your compartment, right? And then these gets filled automatically for you, the private subnet CIDR block and the public subnet CIDR blocks. If you don't want to, manually modify these, you can leave it to the default. Yeah. So that's the VCN details that you have to provide. Then you click on Next, where it starts configuring everything for you, right? So the two subnets are created, public and private. All your gateways are set up, and then your route table is set up. Your security list is defined. So the security list is basically the security, the rules, the virtual firewall rules for your VCN, right? So, and then here is where you define the ingress and outgress rules required for any kind of traffic allowed in and out of your instances, right? So I'll just show you an example of a security rule. So your route tables are updated and so on. So this configuration will complete your VCN setup. Yeah, so this is the ingress rules that we have set up for allowing TCP traffic, right? So to both the MySQL default ports. So we are saying that any traffic from TCP on port is allowed to your instances, right? And this is similarly for the MySQL shell. So these are the default ports, so it's set like that. But when you create create the DB system, you can provide your own custom ports and can modify it here too. So that's about the VCN setup. Next is policies. Again, as I mentioned, policies can be as fine-grained as you want to suit the requirements of your organization, right? So you go into the menu under Identity, you choose Policies, and then you say Create Policy. Again, it's a simple thing where you provide the policy name, choose the compartment, and that's the policy builder, right? So these are some of the policies that we are defining for this particular service. So I'm saying allow administrator group to compartment inspect and tenancy. So the administrators will have all access to inspect anything that's happening in the compartment, right? So obviously that is the most required part for the administrators. And the next one is, yeah, to read your VCN, right? So that is, again, you are giving your administrators the privilege. The most important thing here is this. So the administrators have the manage MySQL family in the tenancy. So the MySQL family is the entire set of resources like the VCN, the DB systems, the backups, the channels, and so forth, right? So everything here will be allowed to be managed by the administrators. And this is another most important thing if you want your group of users to use Cloud Shell. Yeah, so you can define it something like this. So this is a policy builder where it checks for your syntax and all that. So you can now say create. So the policy is created, it is active, right? So, and these are the statements that we define for our policy under that compartment. And each resource in OCI will have an OCID, right? OCID is nothing but Oracle Cloud Identifier. Any resource will have OCID dot resource name dot some value, Okay, so this is to identify the resource uniquely across multiple regions. So there are some resources that are regionally unique and some can be locally unique, right? So this is all regional resources, so we have to identify with the OSID. So that's that's the information about your policy. So your policies got created. Then the next important thing to know about is the configuration. So the configuration is something that is, it's optimized for each of the MySQL shapes, as well as allowing you to create your own custom configs on top of the default configs that we provide, right? So the default configuration are attached to a particular shape, wherein it's nothing but the variable and value mapping, right? So whatever combination is best suited for that shape is configured as part of your default configurations. So you can choose to modify the allowed variables and values in the configuration screen and create your own custom config and tie it to a particular shape, right? So we provide that provision for you. And that's a regional resource, so you can use it across your availability domain in creating different DB systems. Yeah. So under MySQL, that's the configuration resource. So you see the default configurations that we have already laid out for you. So it's depending on each configuration is tied to a particular shape. So this is the configuration for this shape, right? Which is E2.1, where the shape is going to be core count CPU, one CPU, one OCPU, and memory size is 8 GB, right? So similarly, there are different configurations where it's nothing but the variable value mapping in an optimized manner. So these are the configurations available in our compartment. Now let's see how to create a custom config as well. So you go here, create MySQL configuration. Again, you select your compartment. You just provide a name for your configuration, right? So it's as simple as that. And then, yeah, the description is optional. And then you can choose a specific shape to which you want to tie this configuration to, right? So you change the shape, you choose this shape, and then this is how you create your custom config. So you can choose a specific variable name and value that you want to define for your custom configuration, right? So this is a couple of examples that I'm showing here. So for example, I can say auto commit, turn it on, right? And SQL mode, I can say, okay, these values have to be provided. So when I say create, the custom configuration gets created. Okay, so that's the configuration screen where for a configuration also we get an OSID, yeah, and that is tied to 2.1 shape, and that's a custom configuration on this compartment, right? And to show you what are the user-defined variables that you have configured, we have this user-defined flag on the console, which shows you yes, so that you know what all variables you have changed, basically. Yeah. So that's the custom configuration, and then yeah, then we are all set to create the DB system. So if you don't want to, create the custom config, you can skip that part. Only VCN and policy is mandatory. Yeah. So just go into the DB system screen and say create DB system. Again, it's the same thing. So you do select the compartment, name your DB system, and availability domain will be selected by default as AD1, but you can choose to um, uh, select any of the other ADs in that particular region, right? So, and then you can select the shape. It can be your one of the default shapes or the custom, no, one of the default shapes that we provide. And then you say next. And here we choose the, the configuration also. Yeah, here we choose the configuration where in this case I've chosen the default configuration, right? So I didn't choose custom, but you can opt to see only your custom configs and then choose one from there. Yeah, so that's the configuration screen. Yeah. So then you just provide your admin credentials like you do on on-premise installation, uh, the admin username and password. And this is that additional step because we need to add our VCN details. So you add the VCN that you created in this compartment, right? And then the default is private, but you can choose to opt for the public subnet. Okay, both are available. And then the host name is some user-defined name for easy reference. And again, the ports are optional. If you leave it like that, the default ones will be chosen, but you can customize it as well. So that's the DB system creation. One more step away is backups. So as I said, it's fully managed service, right? So we take care of your automatic the backups in an automated fashion for your system. So you just have to configure whether you want automatic backups or you will do manually, right? So if you uncheck this, it assumes that you are going for a manual way of backup, and then you have to do your own backups, right, for the DB system. But if you leave it enabled, then backups will be taken at regular intervals at this window time that you again can leave to default or customize based on your the load or the traffic that you have on the DB system. The retention period can again be customized. By default, we leave it for 7 days for automatic backup. Yeah. But when you create manual backup, again, yeah, you can configure your retention period. So that's the last step, and then there you go. We start, the DB system starts getting created, and that's the OSID of the DB system. Yeah, so shape. The storage size by default is 50 GB for that shape. So it's in creating state now, and these are the ports, MySQL ports. And then it takes a while to create, and then it becomes active. Yeah. So another thing is you don't have to refresh it to say the status. It is automatic refreshing. So once it's active, you just will be able to see it here, and that's a complete OSID. Yeah. So this is the syntax, right? So OSID1 dot the resource is MySQL DB system. So that's the name of the resource, and followed by the identifier. So this is all the details that we gave to create the DB system, and that's the summary being displayed. You can use the tags tab to create your own custom tags, right? So to basically filter it better. When there are multiple DB systems, you can filter it based on the custom tags that you create. Then once it's all created, we'll just take a look at the resources of the DB system. So these are the resources that we expose as part of the DB system. So the metrics is basically it's useful for mainly for the administrators to monitor the current connections, the latency, and so on. So everything can be monitored right from the console. So you don't have to do any kind of queries or scripts to do this monitoring and send notifications, right? So based on the metrics, you can just trigger your notifications as required. So this is the metrics part of the DB system. And that's the endpoint with which we connect to the host, right? So the host name is with that complete domain name, and it's active, and that's the private IP address, and these are the ports with which you access. Yeah. So that's the endpoint resource right on the console. So one more advantage of using the console service is you can launch the shell directly from the console. So that's the shell button. So you click on this and you can launch the shell, right? So you can start directly playing around with the OCI calls to any particular resource that you have created. So I'll just show an example of the OCI call for a DB system. So that's the DB system that we created, right? So then we say OCI MySQL DB system get the DB system ID, and this will give the complete details of the DB system as you have configured, right? So right from your backup details, your tags, your compartment information, the state of the DB system, and so on, right? So this is another way of accessing the service. So that's the complete screen. I mean, I have just maximized the Cloud Shell to see the complete output. Yeah, next is how do we connect to the database service that we have created, right? So you can just have the community MySQL client libraries installed because you are doing a trial version. You can just do a yum install of the client packages, right? And then you have the host name available on the endpoint resource. So you just do MySQL shell or MySQL and just do your username at host, and then you are in to the host, which is available on the cloud, right? And then you can start creating your own database and start loading the data and so on. So it's as simple as that. So you won't feel any difference of an on-prem installation versus the cloud service. Okay, so that's the summary. So we have seen how to create the DB system with the prerequisites being met, and we have seen the different ways of accessing the DB system, right? And we have also seen how to connect through the client to the server. Yeah. So a quick summary of what we have seen. Again, it's a fully managed database service where everything is configured and managed for you by the MySQL team, right? And it's integrated with OCI with security as the first focus. And it's 100% developed, managed, and supported by the same MySQL team. Yeah, and it's significant cost savings. Yeah, we are like 3.1 to 3.7x less compared to other service providers, and there is no region-specific charge that we do. So any region that you choose is going to be priced the same. So that's one more advantage, and it's easy to deploy, manage, and use. And yeah, you can just do a test drive right now in the region near you. Yeah, so you'll get $300 credits and a free trial for 30 days, and that's the URL. So you can connect with us on the following, right? Twitter.com/MySQL, Facebook.com/MySQL, and LinkedIn. And that's all. Thank you so much. I look for questions on the chat window. Yeah, I'll stop sharing now. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jyotir. That was a wonderful, wonderful session. Question is, does each MySQL instance get static IP in Oracle Cloud?
Yes, yes. That's how you access the instance, right? The MySQL instance, the compute actually. So you will get each different IP for each instance. Yes.
Thank you so much, Jyotir. I thank you on behalf of Open Source India Platform, India Technology Week, as well as India Electronics for You magazine. Any final thoughts before we part ways for today?
No, thanks for the opportunity, Krishnan. It was nice, and thanks. I hope everybody finds it useful and informative, and they do a test drive today. Yeah. So thanks for the opportunity once again.